So we are done with the FIFA algorithm. Now we will try to explore the next algorithm, which is LRU, list recently used. Now, what is this algorithm is? As the name suggests, this algorithm works on the principle list recently used. It replaces the page that has not been referred by the CPU for the longest time. So how this works, say first string which was referenced by CPU is 4, then second string which is referenced by the CPU is 7, and say the third string which is referenced by the CPU is 2. Now look into the time property of these three strings. If this was referenced in time t0, this was referenced in time t1, and this is referenced in time t2. If you look into the time scale, t0 is the most distant time, and string with index 4, page with index 4 is the page which has been accessed in distance past among these three strings. So in this algorithm you will try to replace this page with index 4. Let me try to understand this by demonstration. Now, as per initial condition, all the frames are empty. Our algorithm is LRU, that is list recently used. Again, at the beginning, the number of page faults variable has been 0 and the page string is same. So now start. The first page which CPU will ask for is page with index 4, which is not inside the RAM, so essentially we have a page fault here, and the number of page faults until this point of time is 1. The next page which will be referenced by the CPU is page with index 7, which is not available into the RAM, so again we have a page fault. Increment the page fault variable by 1 and bring the page into the RAM. Third page, which is page with index 6, page fault is here. Increment page fault variable and bring the page into your RAM. Now come to the fourth page. It has index 1. Now it is not available into the RAM, so page fault occurs here. Now you have to replace an existing item from the RAM, and your algorithm is list recently used. Among pages with indices 4, 7 and 6, page with index 4 is the list recently used. So you will replace this page 4 with page with index 1 and increment the number of page faults by 1. Come to the next page which has index 7. It is already existing into the RAM, so no page fault occurs here. The next page is page with index 6. It is already available in frame 2 of RAM, so no question of page fault and no question of replacement arises, so you don't need to increment the number of page faults variable once again. Now come to page with index 1 in your page string in secondary memory. You again don't need to replace anything, and you don't need to replace the number of page faults as it is already there into the RAM. Now come to the next page. It has page index 2. It is not there into the RAM, so page fault occurs here. Increment the number of page faults by 1. So now observe the existing pages into the RAM. Among the 3 existing pages into the RAM, page with index 7 is the least recently used. It has been used in distant past. So you need to replace this page with index 7 with the new page which has index 2. And the page fault variable has already been updated. Now let me move to the next page. It has index 7. It is not there into the RAM, so page fault occurs here. So you need to add 1 to the number of page faults variable, and you need to replace the page faults. You need to replace the page which has been least recently used from the RAM. Among pages with indices 1, 2 and 6 into the RAM, page with index 6 is the least recently used. It has been used before pages 2 and 1. So you need to replace this page with index 6 with page with index 7. Now let me move to the next page, which is page with index 2. It is already there into the RAM, so no page fault is there. You don't need to update your page faults once more. Now entire string has been loaded into the RAM one by one. We are done. Now let we compute the total number of page faults. It is 6. So using LRU algorithm, total number of page faults which has occurred is 6. Now let me move back to the problem. Using LRU algorithm, hit ratio is once again 40% and miss ratio is once again 60%. And if you want to know about how the computation has been done, it is same as that of the FIFA algorithm. So this was the replacement scenario with LRU page replacement algorithm.